Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaymudirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, verse 41. Ashnatyananta khalu tattva kovidaihi Shraddhahutam yanmukha vijjanamabihi Navai tatha chetanaya bahiskrute Utashane paramahamsya paryaguhu. Although the Supreme Person of Godhead Ananta eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees. For then he does not leave the association of devotees. According to Vedic injunctions, a fire sacrifice is held in order to give food to the Supreme Person of Godhead in the names of the different demigods. While performing a fire sacrifice, one pronounces the word Swaha in mantras such as Indraya Swaha, Adityaya Swaha. These mantras are uttered to satisfy the Supreme Person of Godhead through demigods such as Indra and Aditya. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Naham Tishtami Vaikunte Yoginam Hridayeshu va Tatra Tishtami Narada Yatra Gayanti Mad Bhaktaha Maktaha. I am not in Vaikunta nor in the hearts of the yogis. I remain where my devotees engage in glorifying my activities. It is to be understood that the Supreme Person of Godhead does not leave the company of his devotees. Okay, while these mantras are indirectly offered to the Supreme Lord, directly they are offered to demigods. But Krishna is present there also because he accepts all the Vedic offerings also. Um, so Krishna is saying, wherever my devotees glorify me, so I don't, Lord does not leave the company of his devotees. So if you want to always remain in the company of the Supreme Lord, then we have to just glorify the Supreme Lord, chant his holy names, glorify him. We can constantly be in touch with him. Fire is certainly devoid of life, but devotees and Brahmanas are the living representatives of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, to feed Brahmanas and Vaishnavas is to feed the Supreme Person of Godhead directly. It may be concluded that instead of offering fire sacrifices, one should offer foodstuffs to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for that process is more effective than fire yagna. The vivid example of this principle in action was given by Advaita Prabhu. When he performed the Shraddha ceremony for his father, he first of all called Haridas Thakur and offered him food. It is a practice that after finishing the Shraddha ceremony, one should offer food to an elevated Brahmana. But Advaita Prabhu offered food first to Haridas Thakur, who had taken his birth in a Mohammedan family. Therefore, Haridas Thakur asked Advaita Prabhu why he was doing something which might jeopardize his position in Brahmana society. Advaita Prabhu replied that he was feeding millions of first-class Brahmanas by offering the food to Haridas Thakur. He was prepared to talk with any learned Brahmana on this point and prove definitely that by offering food to a pure devotee like Haridas Thakur, he was equally as blessed as he would have been by offering food to thousands of learned Brahmanas. While performing sacrifices, one offers oblations to sacrificial fire, but when such oblations are offered to Vaishnavas, they are certainly more effective. So, a few things to learn here. Um, so, yeah, fire sacrifice not as important as offering foodstuffs to Brahmanas, or we'll say Vaishnavas, because it's hard to find qualified Brahmanas. So offer foodstuffs to Vaishnavas. Second thing is Advaita Prabhu was actually performing Shraddha ceremony for his father. Now this Shraddha ceremony would not be the Smarta Vidhi, be the Vaishnava Vidhi. And in the Vaishnava Vidhi, again the central part is like in the Smarta Vidhi also, central part is offering food, pinda and udaka, which has to be offered to the Lord and then offered to devotees. Um, so this is what Advaita Prabhu did. So he first of all called Haridas Thakur and offered him food. And yeah, the position of a Vaishnava, irrespective, though he was born in so-called Mohammedan family, he is more exalted than thousands of learned Brahmanas. So yeah, so more than mm, doing fire sacrifices, just offer food stuff to Vaishnavas. Shraddha ceremony uh, can be done by Vaishnava Vidhi. Central part of that is offering bhoga to the Lord and then prasadam to devotees and also to the departed soul. So, yeah. Yad Brahma Nityam Virajam Sanatanam Shraddha Tapo Mangala Mauna Samyamaihi Samadhina Bhibrati Harta Drishtaye Yatredamaadarsha Ivavabhasate. In Brahminical culture, a Brahmana's transcendental position is eternally maintained because the injunctions of the Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, scriptural conclusions, full sense and mind control, and meditation. In this way, the real goal of life is illuminated just as one's face is fully reflected in a clean mirror. Brahminical culture, Brahmana's transcendental position is eternally maintained. So one can maintain his Brahminical position by because the injunctions of Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, scriptural conclusions, full sense and mind control, meditation. Since it is described in the previous verse that feeding a living Brahmana is more effective than offering oblations in a fire sacrifice, in this verse it is now clearly described what Brahmanism is and who a Brahmana is. In the age of Kali, taking advantage of the fact that by feeding a Brahmana one obtains a more effective result than by performing sacrifices, a class of men with no Brahminical qualifications claim the eating privilege known as Brahmana Bhojana, simply on the basis of their birth in Brahmana families. In order to distinguish this class of men from the real Brahmanas, Maharaj Prthu is giving an exact description of a Brahmana and Brahminical culture. One should not take advantage of his position simply to live like a fire without light. A Brahmana must be fully conversant with the Vedic conclusion. Vedeshtu sarve rahmeva vedyaha. The Vedic conclusion, ultimate understanding or Vedanta understanding is knowledge of Krishna. Actually, that is a fact because simply by understanding Krishna as he is described in Bhagavad Gita, as described in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tattvataha, one becomes a perfect Brahmana. The Brahmana who knows Krishna perfectly well is always in a transcendental position. Mam cha yovya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service and who does not fall down. Avyabhicharini bhakti. Vyabhichari is a prostitute or mm, yeah, bad conduct, bad character. So avyabhicharini means like not having bad conduct, meaning not going here and there. So fixed in devotion, achala bhakti, who does not fall down in any circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, thus comes to the level of Brahman. So this is the first thing here, that he accepts the injunctions of Vedas with faith and spiritual conclusions. So Brahmana should know all this. Therefore, a devotee of the Lord Krishna is actually a perfect Brahmana. His situation is transcendental, for he is free from the four defects of conditional life. Brahma Pramada, Vipralipsa Karana Patava. And commit mistakes, illusion, cheat, and to possess imperfect senses. A perfect Vaishnava or Krishna conscious person is always in this transcendental position because he speaks according to Krishna and is representative. Because Vaishnavas speak exactly according to the tune of Krishna, whatever they say is free from these four defects. So these four defects are there in any person conditioned. For example, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that everyone should always think of him. Everyone should become his devotee. Manmana bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. And ultimately, everyone should surrender unto him. These devotional activities are transcendental and free from mistakes, illusion, cheating, and imperfection. Therefore, anyone who is a sincere devotee of Lord Krishna and who preaches this cult, speaking only on the basis of Krishna's instructions, is understood to be virajam, or free from the defects of material contamination. So, sincere devotee who uh, who is also preaching the cult, preaching Krishna consciousness, he is understood to be free from defect of material contamination. A genuine Brahmana or Vaishnava therefore depends eternally on the conclusion of the Vedas or Vedic versions presented by the Supreme Lord himself. Only from Vedic knowledge can we understand the actual position of the absolute truth, who, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, is manifested in three creatures: Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. This knowledge is perfect from time immemorial, and the Brahminical or Vaishnava culture depends on this principle eternally. One should therefore study the Vedas with faith, not only for one's personal knowledge, but for the sake of spreading this knowledge and these activities through real faith in the words of the Supreme Person of Godhead and the Vedas. So one should study and also one should spread the knowledge, which is preaching. Everybody should preach. Whatever we read, we should tell others. Simple. We might tell to one person, we might be empowered to speak to 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, doesn't matter. But we have to preach. In this verse, the word Mangala, auspicious, is very significant. Sridhar Swami quotes that to do what is good and to reject what is not good is called Mangala or auspicious. To do what is good means to accept everything favorable to the discharge of devotional service. And to reject what is not good means to reject everything not favorable. Anukulyasa sankalpaha pratikulyasa varjanam. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we accept this principle by rejecting four prohibited items, namely illicit sex life, intoxication, gambling, and flesh eating, and accepting the daily chanting of at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and meditation 3 times a day by chanting the Gayatri Mantra. Gayatri Mantra is for the Brahminically initiated. In this way, one can keep his Brahminical culture and spiritual strength intact by just doing this. Simply this. By following these principles of devotional service strictly, chanting 24 hours a day, the Mahamantra, one makes positive progress in spiritual life and ultimately becomes completely fit to see the Supreme Person of God face to face. So please understand, Prabhupada here just says at least 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And in the very next statement, he says chanting 24 hours a day. So we should understand this chanting 16 rounds is just basic promise. That's all. Basic commitment. But if you want to become completely fit to see the Supreme Lord face to face, one has to constantly be Krishna conscious throughout the day, 24 hours. Because the ultimate goal of studying or understanding the Vedic knowledge is to find Krishna. One who follows the Vedic principles as described above can from the very beginning see all the features of Lord Krishna very distinctly, as one can see one's own face completely reflected in a clean mirror. Because we know exact what is the position of Krishna, what is the position of all devatas, what is the position of jivas, shakti, kala, karma, everything we understand. So it's like one's face completely reflected in a clean mirror. So distinct, clear understanding. The conclusion is therefore that a Brahmana does not become a Brahmana simply because he is a living entity or is born in a Brahmana family. He must possess all the qualities mentioned in the Shastras and practice the Brahminical principles in his life. Again, we have to practice all these principles. Not we can't just be theoretical. Thus, he ultimately becomes a fully Krishna conscious person and can understand what Krishna is. This looks like a very simple statement. Mm. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chan Me Divyam Yavam Yo Veti Tattvataha. Understanding Krishna in Tattvataha is very difficult. Mm. So we have to understand Krishna in truth, as revealed by our acharyas. Mm. Our devotee continuously sees Krishna face to face within his heart. Now, this is within our heart, but also there is also face to face also. So both of them are there. This is the highest stage. प्रेमाञ्जनच्छुरित भक्तिविलोचनेन सन्तः सदैव हृदयेषु विलोकयन्ति यं श्यामसुन्दरमचिन्त्य गुणस्वरूपम् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. And the devotee, by development of pure love for Krishna, constantly sees the Supreme Person of Godhead, who is known as Shyama Sundara, within his heart. That is a perfectional stage of Brahminical culture. So yeah, while Maharaja Prthu is mentioning some Brahminical qualities, Prabhupada in the purport saying perfect Brahmana means Vaishnava, so follow Vaishnava principles. And of course, Vaishnava principles, Brahminical principles are a subset of Vaishnava principles. Sense and mind control, meditation, accepting Vedas, austerity, etc. But there are more. You surrender to Krishna, please Krishna, understand Krishna. These things are over and beyond Brahminical. And like, yeah, Prabhupada said, 24 hours a day, we have to come to the stage of being in touch with Krishna through Kirtanam, Shravanam, Japa, etc. etc. But the ultimate idea is that we have to be in constant touch with the Lord. तेषामहं पादसरोजरेणुम् आर्यावहेयाधिकिरीटम् आयुः यं नित्यदा बिभृत आशुपापं नश्यत् अमुं सर्वगुणा bhajanti. O respectable personalities present here, I beg the blessings of all of you, that I may perpetually carry on my crown the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmanas and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. So Maharaja Prthu is again showing by example, even though he is such an exalted devotee, he is asking, begging for blessings of all citizens, ordinary people also, that I can carry on my crown the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmanas. Again, dust of the lotus feet means following their instructions until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all reactions which arise from sinful life, and eventually develops all good and desirable qualities. So he is relieved of all reactions, and then he also develops good qualities. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana. Prabhupada is quoting. Yeah. It is said that one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Person of Godhead, which means unflinching faith in the Vaishnava or pure devotee of the Lord, develops all good qualities of the demigods. Unflinching faith in Krishna, unflinching faith in Vaishnavas, pure devotees of the Lord, develops all good qualities. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana, unflinching. Sarvair gunes, tatra samasate suraha. Sura means demigods. All godly qualities of the demigods. Prahlad Maharaj also said, Naisham matistava urukramangrim. Unless one takes the dust of the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava on one's head, one cannot understand what the Supreme Person of Godhead is. And unless one knows the Supreme Person of Godhead, one's life remains imperfect. Again, take the dust, follow the instructions. And which is the reason why one has to accept a spiritual master and surrender his life to him. Otherwise, like you said, for chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we don't need any initiation. But we need initiation so that we surrender to somebody. We are, so foolish. We want to remain independent. So we have to take initiation. Mm. So that we carry the orders, instructions of the pure Vaishnava on our heads. Otherwise, one's life will remain imperfect, even though we might have come in Krishna, touch with Krishna consciousness, we might be chanting, etc. But it will remain imperfect. It will not achieve perfection. A great soul who has fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord after understanding Him fully and after repeatedly undergoing austerities and penances for many, many lives is very, very rare. Onam Janmanamante Gnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. The crown of a king is simply a big load if the king or head of the state does not actually bear the dust of the lotus feet of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. That we already saw, because then he has to take the karma of all the people, etc. So it's a big load. In other words, if a liberal king like Prthu Maharaj does not follow the instructions of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, or does not follow the Brahminical culture, he is simply a burden on the state, for he cannot benefit the citizen. Maharaja Prthu is the perfect example of an ideal chief executive. Again, so bearing the dust means following the instructions. Otherwise, our whole existence will be a burden. No use. So we have to surrender to the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava and surrender ourselves. Then very soon we'll be relieved from all reactions from sinful life, and also we will stop sinning and we will develop all good and desirable qualities. Gunayanam Sheeladhanam Kritagnam Vruddhashrayam Samvrinate Nusampadaha Prasidatham Brahmakulam Gavam Cha Janardana Sa Anucharas Mahyam. Whoever acquires the Brahminical qualifications, whose only wealth is good behavior, who is grateful, grateful, and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Person of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmana class, with the cows, and with me. The Supreme Person of Godhead is worshipped with the prayer Namam Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. Thus it is clear that the Supreme Person of Godhead respects and protects Brahmanas and Brahminical culture as well as the cows. In other words, wherever there are Brahmanas and Brahminical culture, there are cows and cow protection. It can't be that there are Brahmanas and no cow protection. That's what Prabhupada is saying. In a society or civilization in which there are no Brahmanas or Brahminical culture, cows are treated as ordinary animals and slaughtered at the sacrifice of human civilization. The specific mention of the word Gavam by Prthu Maharaj is significant because the Lord is always associated with cows and his devotees. In pictures, Lord Krishna is always seen with cows and his associates, such as cowherd boys and the gopis. Krishna cannot be alone. Therefore, Prthu Maharaj said, Sa Anucharascha, indicating that the Supreme Person of Godhead is always associated with his followers and devotees. A devotee acquires all the good qualities of the demigods. Gunayanam, reserve all good qualities. His only asset is good behavior and he is grateful. Look at this. His only asset is good behavior. And he is grateful. Gratitude for the mercy of the Supreme Lord is one of the qualities of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. He is grateful that Krishna is giving mercy. He is grateful, and also he is only asset is good behavior. We should note this. We've been talking about this, our nature, our, fallen nature, how we keep bringing that back again and again to the forefront. But if we are to be called Vaishnavas, our only asset is our good behavior. And good behavior is not socially good, Vaishnava, Vaishnava way. Everyone should feel grateful to the Supreme Person of Godhead because He is maintaining all living entities and supplying all their necessities. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Jo Bahunam Vidadati Khaman. He is supplying all necessities of the living entities. Living entity who is therefore grateful to the Supreme Lord is certainly qualified with good characteristics. So first is we have to have this gratefulness. We should feel gratitude. Oh, Supreme Lord is giving everything, though I don't deserve to be grateful. I mean, this whole world, they can at least forget about coming to the stage of bhakti. At least they should feel gratitude towards the Lord. That's why sometimes, like Prabhupada used to say, oh, Christians, at least they're saying, oh, Jesus, please give her a daily bread. And there is some gratitude, saying, oh, yes, he is giving. Now society is full of atheists. As they think we are only doing, we are only getting everything. Nobody else, nobody, there's no Supreme Lord. It's all by my own ability. Ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. The word Vriddhashrayam is very significant in this verse. Buddha refers to one who is advanced in knowledge. There are two kinds of old men, one who are advanced in years and those experienced in knowledge. One who is advanced in knowledge is actually Vriddha, Gnana Vriddha. One does not become Vriddha simply by advancing in age. Vriddha Ashrayam, a person who takes shelter of a superior person who is advanced in knowledge, can acquire all the good qualities of a Brahmana and be trained in good behavior. See, one has to take shelter of a superior person who is advanced in knowledge, and then we can acquire all good qualities of a Brahmana and be trained in good behavior. So we have to be trained, for which we have to take the shelter of a superior person, who is the Guru. When one actually attains good qualities, becomes grateful for the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, he is endowed with all opulence. Being in the shelter of Supreme Lord and a Vaishnava is all opulence. You don't need any other opulence. Such a person is a Brahmana or Vaishnava. Therefore, Prthu Maharaj invokes the blessings and mercy of the Supreme Person of Godhead with his associates, devotees, Vaishnavas, Brahmanas, and cows. So please remember, we have to be trained in good behavior. Good behavior is our only asset. The only asset. There is Prabhupada saying. Yeah. The only asset is good behavior. And so we have to learn that behavior. So we have to be trained. So which means we have to take shelter of a superior person. Maitreya Uvacha iti brvanam nrupatim pitradeva tushtumanasa sadhu adena sadhavaha. Great sage Maitreya said, after hearing King Prthu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitraloka, Brahmanas, and the saintly persons present at the meeting congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. When a person speaks very nicely at a meeting, he is congratulated by the audience who express their goodwill with the words sadhu, sadhu, not claps, not haribol. This is called sadhu vada. All the saintly persons, pitas, and demigods who were present at the meeting heard Prthu Maharaj expressed their goodwill with the word sadhu, sadhu. They all accepted the good mission of Prthu Maharaj and they were fully satisfied. Puttreణ jayate lokan iti satyavati shruti brahmadandahata papo yadveno atyatarat tamaha. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the actions of a putra or son was fulfilled, for the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmanas, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son Prthu Maharaj. So one has to have putra. If he has a putra or a son, then he can conquer heavenly planets. Of course, for devotees, it doesn't matter. According to the Vedic version, there is a hellish planet called Put, and one who delivers a person from there is called Putra. The purpose of marriage, therefore, is to have a Putra or son who is able to deliver his father. Even if the father falls down to the hellish condition of Put, Maharaja Prithu's father Vena was the most sinful person and was therefore cursed to death by Brahmanas. Now all the great saintly persons, sages and Brahmanas present in the meeting, after hearing from Maharaja Prithu about his great mission in life, became convinced that the statement of the Vedas had been fully proved. The purpose of accepting a wife in religious marriage, as sanctioned in the Vedas, is to have a putra, a son qualified to deliver his father from the darkest region of hellish life. Now we don't have to argue why it is putra, why not putri. It's like saying, why women give birth to children, why not men. It's like that. If you can answer that question, we can answer this also. Marriage is not intended for sense gratification, but for getting a son fully qualified to deliver his father. But if a son is raised to become an unqualified demon, how can he deliver his father from hellish life? It is therefore the duty of a father to become a Vaishnava and raise his children to become Vaishnavas. Then, even if by chance the father falls into hellish life in his next birth, such a son can deliver him as Maharaja Prithu delivered his father. Yeah, and it's not just one generation, right? It's multiple generations. And it's not just whether it is Putra, it's Putra or Putri. Mm. So, this um, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I think, quotes from Narada Pancharatra mostly about this. Yeah, so if one becomes a Vaishnava, yeah, in Bhagavatam it says 21 generations, 7 into 3. Mm, yeah, yeah. So everybody will be delivered. Mm. So all that we have to focus on is to actually become a Vaishnava. And yes, parents who have children, they have to raise their children to become Vaishnavas, so which is also very important. Any more verses? Okay, we'll stop here till there are. Okay, I think we'll stop here. Yeah. Any questions, comments? Okay, we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Panchakalpatarubhyashta kripa sindhubhyo patitana pavane Vaishnavyo ki jai. Samaveta Gaura Bhakta ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.